Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
A phrase echoed through centuries, from the crackle of bonfires to the flicker of a Guy Fawkes mask in V for Vendetta. Today it stands as a symbol of resistance, rebellion, and the fight against tyranny. But behind the mask and beyond the movie lies a true story. Darker, more desperate, and far more human. The real Gunpowder Plot of 1605 was no comic book uprising. It was a treacherous conspiracy, born from persecution and fueled by faith, that came within hours of reshaping England forever. This is the story of the men who lit that fuse, and how their failure became legend. To understand the Gunpowder Plot, we must first step back into a fractured England. For decades, the kingdom had been torn apart by faith. After Henry VIII's break with Rome and Elizabeth I's Protestant reign, England became a perilous place for Catholics. Public worship was forbidden, priests were hunted, and recusants, those who refused to attend Anglican services, faced fines, imprisonment, even torture and death. When James VI of Scotland ascended the English throne in 1603 as James I, many Catholics hoped for leniency. Initially, James hinted at tolerance, but as plots and pressures mounted, he reinstated harsh penalties, dashing Catholic hopes and deepening resentment. This simmering persecution became the spark that lit the fuse of rebellion. Out of this climate of despair rose Robert Catesby, a charismatic and deeply devout Catholic gentleman. Convinced that peaceful resistance had failed, Catesby conceived a radical plan to annihilate the Protestant leadership in one devastating strike. His vision was chilling in its simplicity: to blow up the Houses of Parliament during the state opening, killing King James IV, his heirs, and his ministers in one blast. Afterwards, they would kidnap Princess Elizabeth, proclaim her queen under Catholic guidance, and spark a national uprising to restore the old faith. Catesby's inner circle included Thomas Percy, who secured vital access in Westminster, and Guy Fawkes, a battle-hardened soldier and explosives expert who would guard the powder and ignite the charge. The plan moved from fantasy to frightening reality. Through Percy's connections, the conspirators obtained a cellar beneath the House of Lords. Over months, they secretly transported 36 barrels of gunpowder, concealing them beneath firewood and coal. By late October 1605, everything was ready. Fawkes, operating under the alias John Johnson, stood watch, prepared to light the slow match at the very moment the king entered Parliament on November 5th. Had their plan succeeded, much of London's political elite would have been obliterated and England's history would have changed forever. But fate, or perhaps conscience, intervened. 10 days before the explosion, Lord Monteagle received an anonymous letter warning him to avoid Parliament. The origin of this letter remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Monteagle passed it to the Privy Council, and King James himself interpreted it as a genuine threat. On the night of November 4th, a cursory search of the Palace of Westminster revealed nothing suspicious. But in the early hours of November 5th, a second inspection, led by Sir Thomas Knivett, uncovered a man guarding suspicious barrels beneath the Lord's chamber. That man was Guy Fawkes. He was arrested on the spot, surrounded by 36 barrels of gunpowder, and England was saved from annihilation by mere hours. News of Fawkes' capture sent shockwaves through the realm. Catesby and his remaining allies fled London, hoping to rally supporters for a wider rebellion. But few answered their call. Cornered at Holbeche House, several were shot dead in a final gunfight, including Catesby himself. The rest were captured, tortured, and brought to trial in January 1606. They were found guilty of high treason and sentenced to the brutal fate reserved for traitors, to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. In the aftermath, Parliament passed the Observance of 5th November Act, declaring an annual day of thanksgiving for the king's deliverance. Over time, this evolved into Bonfire Night, where effigies of Fawkes were burned, first as a symbol of Protestant triumph, and later as a general celebration of fireworks, rebellion, and remembrance. Over the centuries, the Gunpowder Plot has slipped into legend. What we often remember is not the tangled truth, but the simplified story, a tale told by time, shaped by fear, and retold through theatre, politics, and film. Most people know the name Guy Fawkes, the man with the lantern, the mask, the barrels of gunpowder. But history tells a subtler story. Fawkes was not the mastermind, he was the soldier, the man chosen to guard the fuse. The true architect was Robert Catesby, whose conviction and desperation lit the first spark of rebellion. And then there's the mystery of the Monteagle Letter, the anonymous warning that unraveled the entire scheme. Was it written by a friend, trying to save a life without betraying the cause? Or was it something more calculated, perhaps even a government trap, designed to expose the plot at the perfect moment? Historians still debate the truth, and the parchment remains silent. The popular imagination also paints the plan as a single night of destruction, a lone act of terror. Yet the conspirators dreamed much bigger, to shatter a monarchy, ignite a Catholic uprising, and place a new ruler on the throne. It was a blueprint for revolution, not just revenge. Centuries later, the story would take on a new life. Guy Fawkes's face, once a symbol of treason, became a mask of resistance, a sign of rebellion worn in protest and popular culture. From Bonfire effigies to V for Vendetta, the legend of the Gunpowder Plot has transformed, evolving far beyond the desperate men who conceived it. But beneath the myths and modern meanings, one truth endures. A handful of men once came within a match's strike of changing England forever. The Gunpowder Plot was a failure in execution but a success in symbolism. It revealed how deeply divided England was, not only by faith, but by fear. It showed the deadly consequences of extremism and how governments can weaponize a failed rebellion to consolidate power. More than 4 centuries later, November 5th still echoes with that ancient warning. Remember the 5th of November? A story not just of one man with a match, but of an entire nation at a crossroads between faith, loyalty, and the power of belief. Did you enjoy the story behind the Gunpowder Plot? Then don't just subscribe to Mind Minute for more untold moments that shaped our world.